let's talk about this. During quarantine, to keep motivated, I've focused on KOMs on Strava. In addition to that, I've also now acquired a power meter and have been looking into FTP testing. In the city, it's hard to find space and time to be able to do an FTP test, especially at the 20-minute range. So I went on search for a 20-minute segment, found one, and then did an exploration ride to see what it was like. The route works out pretty well. However, there are a few stoplights that cause an issue. So as long as you time those well, you can get the full segment in, the full effort, the full 20 minutes that you need. I'll be looking for another segment that has less traffic and less stoplights for the future, but for now this worked out pretty well. The segment name is Rocky River to Lower Rocky River. It's 8.87 miles, 0.04 decline over the entire segment on Strava. Because of this, it doesn't sync to my Garmin, so I have no way of telling as far as on route where I'm at. The current KOM for the segment is 22 minutes and 1 second at an average speed of 24.2 miles an hour. Now I rode this just to ride the route to see what it was like before. At 24.2 miles an hour over the course of almost 9 miles at a downhill, I figured I could do it pretty well. So it seemed like a good place to give it a shot. It seemed like a good segment to try an FTP. That wasn't my initial intention or really my full intention, but I've been trying to find, like I said, roads where I could do FTPs in the future. I set out for this segment versus the FTP. The FTP was a side effect of it, which turned out to be pretty good. So let's get into it.
Pausing for a second, taking a breather, take some water, put the GoPro on the bike, and we get after it. So the segment starts here at this light. Unfortunately, I was able to grab a little draft off of this truck to get started, get going on the KOM on the segment a little bit. And right here, the first probably, I think, mile or two is a KOM in and of itself that I've done before, so I knew how to pace this section. Just a little kicker up and then it levels out for a little bit. Had to start my watch there because like I said before, the segment isn't on. It's on Strava, but it's not on. It doesn't go to my Garmin because of the overall negative decline of 0.4 on Strava, so it doesn't get kicked to my computer for safety purposes. So, anyways, my gauge of time was my watch, and the KOM segments that I have or haven't tried. But I was able to put at least one KOM segment onto my computer so I could kind of gauge my speed and effort throughout the overall KOM. Again, this is about a 20-minute segment, so it's going to take a little bit of time, but I'll try to talk through as much as I can. Again, the first segment within the big segment ends pretty shortly, so I was pacing pretty well at this point. I think that segment ends right here at this driveway into it's actually a local garden. Here I timed the light just barely. It's turned just as I went under it, so fortunately I was able to get through that one pretty well. There's a few other lights that that come in this segment that had the timeout a little bit closer, but and again, this part of the segment is part of a normal ride of mine that I do, so I'm pretty familiar with these roads, the timing of lights, the flow of traffic, and those sorts of things. So, and here's the start of another KOM within the larger KOM that I hadn't tried this one before, so I looked at the stats for this one before I got going, just to kind of again pace myself, because the overall KOM or the overall segment wasn't going on in my Garmin. So at this point I am pacing on my Garmin for this smaller segment, just to try to give myself something to work for. And this little stretch of road, there's usually a good line of cars that are unable to pass because there's a decent amount of traffic, and then there's this blind turn that comes up. As you can see, that car didn't really seem to care about the oncoming traffic, but we move on. So this is, for the cars, this is a blind turn that they don't pass on, so there's usually a little bit of a line of cars, so I try to push it through here, but this time I'm pacing a little bit more, because I know I've got 10-15 more minutes left. And the GoPro makes the cars look like they're a lot closer than they actually are. Most of the cars gave me a decent amount of space. On efforts like this, though, I don't mind a little bit of a draft to give me a little bit of a breather. And as you can see, that this is a slight downhill section that then kicks up, and I'm pushing a little harder to get through, to make sure I get through this light. And they put these stoplights in this summer, so, and again, I'm really pumping through to try to get through this one, and I just miss it, but give the cars a little wave. They saw me coming, gave me a second or two, got through the light, no problem. Got a bit of a rise here, and then this is actually the end of that segment that I had started, so start to dial things back, get back into more of a rhythm, sitting 250 to 350 in power. And having recently gotten my power meter, I've been trying to not watch it so that I can get a more accurate gauge of where I'm at, just naturally in my riding style. And it's an ongoing thing. Again, this segment's about 20 minutes, so I'm able to do an FTP test if it runs out well for the full 20 minutes of uninterrupted riding. And I generally, because I don't do a lot of sprinting, because I don't do a lot of short tracks, like quick speed rides, I'll probably be focusing on a 20-minute FTP test. just because it's I think my style of riding is for longer extended periods of time and how long I can push myself. And really, like, the group rides around the area push pretty hard for a longer period of time, so I think it's a better measure for the type of riding that I'll be doing in the area. The unfortunate part is that it's just finding roads that are long enough to be able to do a 20-minute segment is kind of tough, but this one works out pretty well for now. And this is a slight downhill section, and again, nice little draft from the cars as they go by, but didn't really need it here. As you can see, I'm going about 35 miles an hour downhill, so. But let up on the pedals a little bit, gave myself a little bit of a break, quick recovery, and then back at it, as you can see in the power. These two sets of lights, again, I got pretty lucky. They were able to stay green as I rolled through. You can see my shadow is pumping a little bit harder as I'm trying to catch these lights. Let off the gas a little bit and you can see the power drip down a little bit and then go up a little bit more. Stabilize again. This section, just looking at those lights, seeing what I can do to try to meet them. This one I'm gonna run, but again, give the car a wave, make sure they saw me, and roll through, stay safe. Gave a little check back just to make sure nobody came through. And keep it rolling. I had targeted trying to keep my power somewhere between 280, 300. The 20-minute max effort that I've just naturally done, not intentionally trying to do FTP testing, put me at somewhere around 280. This one, after this ride, it ended up getting up to 305, which is pretty good and gives me something as a baseline to go after. So, but again, I wasn't necessarily going for an FTP test on this ride. I was more going for the segment. So the FTP result was a side effect. So again, good base, but on another day I'll give it a full effort to see what my true FTP is, but not today. Quick little riser here. Fortunately, I was able to get passed by a few cars safely here and grab a very brief draft as they're obviously able to go up the little hill faster than I am. And you can't necessarily see my head in the shadow the whole time, but if you notice, I do give a check behind me, every 15-20 seconds, especially on these busier roads. Just because cars don't necessarily pay attention, and you can see me, I'm drifting out a little bit further into the road just to try to take up some space, especially around these blind corners. And this is a blind corner over a hill, so it's especially important for me to stay out in front of them. I would imagine a car's probably going to pass me soon. Yeah, see a little head check there. Keep it rolling. Trying to time this light, keep the momentum going, slow up off the power, notice it's turning green, and then get right back on it. Another check of the head. Always looking out behind me. With cars coming from the other direction, you never know what the car behind you is going to do, so you just, if you see one, I give it a good check more frequently if there are cars coming. Some are pretty good about passing when there's extra space, others not so good, so better to be cautious about it. Get out of the saddle a little bit, pump over this hill. Again, got a good line of cars, 3-4 cars there. Gave me just the smallest bit of draft to help up the hill a little bit. And again, I didn't have this on my computer, so I wasn't able to see that. There's, as you can see down in the right, there's a little hill, and then it goes downhill for a little bit. So, and I've only ridden this segment once. This is my second time riding this segment, so had I known that there was this little kicker and then a downhill, a little downhill, I probably would have pushed it a little bit harder over top of this hill because I knew I could get a little breather. But again, for not having ridden this more than one time, I think I did it pretty well. And if you look at the numbers around the screen, there are two things that you notice that are relatively high. Those being my RPMs and my heart rate. My RPMs, I've just always ridden with a higher RPM. I usually sit somewhere between 90 to 110, depending on the gradient, the effort, those types of things. Oh, this little section, there's a car that just randomly decided to stop, so always got to keep your head up. And then my heart rate's always been relatively high. I've tried to do training to bring it down, but and especially on efforts like this, like I'm pushing it. So 182 is pretty high, but for the effort that I'm doing, it makes sense. Again, I'm out of the saddle here trying to get some speed because I can see the green light. It's been green for a little while. I don't know how long these lights are, so I try not to take my chances and see. There it goes. So I get through that light and I'm super pumped because I'm pretty sure I don't have much more to go. I looked down at my watch, it might be a minute or two. And again, there's just a quick riser to another little downhill. Check over the shoulder. You can see from my shadow, I do sit with my hands in the hoods, but I've got my forearms pretty much on my hand, like on my handlebars, to try to get as aerodynamic as I can. I could have dropped down into more of an aero tuck and put my hands in the center, but I don't feel like I can get enough power because I have nothing to pull up on with my hands, and it's a lot easier just to lean over the way I'm at right now so that I can quickly drop down into the hoods if I need to put out a little more power as well. So and I can see this little hill coming up ahead of time, so you could tell, maybe you couldn't tell, but I dialed back my effort just a little bit to give myself a little break, because I knew I was going to have to push over this hill. And this is where the speed will go down, RPMs will go up. As I try to punch it over top of the hill. And to keep an average speed of 25 miles an hour at least to get the KOM, had to do some just general math. You know, I'd been maintaining at least 27 miles an hour for most of the rest of the segment, so I knew I could drop down a little bit here. So 16 to 18 miles an hour didn't really concern me. And then this is the point again where I know where I'm at. I've ridden this road before. I know where the end is. It's coming up soon, and I just need to push through it. Again, I know this section goes up, so it goes up, flattens out, and then it drops down. So I know I just need to push through to the top section. Then I can maintain power, and then push just a little bit through the finish. You can hear me grunt a little bit because I'm just getting so close. It's been such a long effort. I mean, we're sitting 19 minutes or so at this point, and I've just been going pretty much full gas. You can see my heart rate's going up. I'm trying to maintain power. This is a little, got to the top of that little bump. Maintain, shift up. RPMs go down a little bit. And now we go a little downhill, and I just try to maintain. Give myself a little breather, and then back on the power. Push it through. I'm tired. Pull a little draft from that car as much as I can while being safe. And this light is the end of the segment. And we're done.
Finished the ride, got the KOM, 19 minutes, 45 seconds, average speed of 27 miles an hour. Power, as noted on Strava, was 305 watts over the full segment. It's probably an average power. I pushed it pretty good. Having looked at it and ridden it and having a better idea of the full route, I probably could push it a little bit harder. So I'll probably go back and do this one again. Hopefully I'll get the same breaks with the lights and everything, but it's a good about 20-minute effort to get a good idea of where I'm at, and so that worked out pretty well.